The DS was a console that had a lot of just garbage on it, and one of the most common forms of this garbage was a movie game. It seemed like at this time, any movie that came out immediately just had a video game associated with it, specifically one on the Wii or DS. Harry Potter had a video game. Nacho Libre had a video game. Monsters vs. Aliens, video game. And you better believe Peter Jackson's King Kong had a DS game. But there's one company in particular that comes to mind when I think of licensed movie games on the DS, and that is Disney. They had so many of these games on the DS, from High School Musical to Hannah Montana, but there was one relatively obscure movie that I always loved the DS game for, and that was G-Force. In case you don't remember or don't know what G-Force is, here's a little explanation. So G-Force was a Disney movie that came out in 2009 that was basically just a spy comedy family movie about guinea pigs being spies and saving the world. It was a complete standalone thing. It wasn't based on a toy or a cartoon or anything. There was no sequels or what. It was just a total original IP, which is so rare now that I actually kind of in retrospect appreciate it. But at the time, apparently this was received really poorly, which would have been a total shock to my child self if you told me that, because in my head, in my heart, it was a 10 out of 10, so fuck what the critics say. The movie also had a surprisingly star-studded cast with people like Will Arnett and Zach Galifianakis and Tracy Morgan working on it, Steve Buscemi, Nicolas Cage. None of these people's names meant shit to me when I was a kid, but they're all in the movie. The basic premise of the movie is actually kind of eerie considering it came out in 2009, but it's basically just that an evil company has put smart technology into a bunch of devices, and then someone in the company activates those devices to turn evil and start attacking people. I just think it's kind of funny that back in 2009, Disney themselves was saying, hey, maybe you don't need a smart fridge that you can play Doom on. I don't know. That's just kind of, And as it turns out, the smart hacker character, the mole that you've been working with the whole time, is actually the mole and the one working on the other side. And I didn't realize that was a joke until someone in my chat mentioned it while I was playing this game. Hey, some things go over our head. That's really funny, though. Okay, now it's time to actually get into playing the game itself. I don't think I have seen this menu since whenever the last time I replayed this game, when I was like 13, 14, I want to say? Yup. The first thing I noticed when coming back to this game that I want to talk about isn't actually unique to this game, but it's just Disney's D-Gamer, which is this really strange thing they tried doing. I guess it was more like a Xbox Live or a social game platform they tried launching on the DS. The strange thing about this to me is that Nintendo, even at the time, was like, the tech's not there, we shouldn't invest time into this, but I guess Disney thought they were a step ahead or something. It's very strange because it's so similar to Xbox Live, where you get to customize an avatar and you get items from the games you play. So the ideas aren't bad, the practicality of actually adding friends who would play, Bolt with you is not super likely, so it's interesting they were willing to put the time and money into developing this entire platform, but kind of a sick relic. To the game itself, this game is actually phenomenal, both on the DS and the console version. This is, for a movie tie-in game, so weirdly good. They're usually not. The game's a third-person action game like most of these Disney games are, where it's kind of a mixture of some combat where you're doing weird little action combos and then a lot of parkour and just puzzle solving. The cool thing about this one, besides the fact that the guinea pig has a jetpack, which is already sick, is the scale of it. All of the environments that you're exploring are like offices or warehouses, but because you're a guinea pig and not a person, you are so much smaller than the environment, so normal stuff like couches or vents actually become platforms for you to jump on, or loading areas, because the majority of the loading areas and ways you get between the levels or sections of a level in this game are by going through vents, which is just a really cool, it's in the movie, but it's a cool way of communicating how tiny the character you're playing as is if you're just able to go through heater vents. It's fun. It's also very Mission Impossible. I love it. Throughout the whole game, you're playing as Darwin, the main, I keep wanting to say hamster, but guinea pig in the G-Force, and occasionally you can swap to Mooch, the little fly, who is my favorite character. Watch this. Watch this. Oh, Mooch is base. Oh, Mooch has bullet time. Mooch is crazy. Darwin's basic abilities are a whip attack that you can combo into this little 3-part chain. You can double jump using the jetpack as well as hover using the jetpack with the A button, which you use to cross a lot of gaps and actually gives you a lot of freedom of movement because on top of those abilities you have the ability to mantle onto the corners of objects, so they really let you climb around and explore. In addition to those movement abilities, you also have the ability to do a Dark Souls roll that I personally didn't find to be super useful because it doesn't give you iframes or anything, but it looks cool. When you're in Mooch mode, you're locked into tank controls, which sucks, but otherwise, these sections are pretty cool because you get to fly through specific vents that Darwin can't go through and usually disable objects using these lasers. But the part of the game that I have been intentionally holding out on and not mentioning are these puzzles. And the reason that I haven't mentioned them is because these puzzles are the reason that I could never get past the second mission in this game as a kid. I would play the first maybe hour and a half of this game over and over and over and over again because I would get to one of these puzzles and I could never figure it out. On stream, I eventually figured it out, but even with my new adult brain and my entire Twitch chat's brain, we couldn't figure it out for 20 minutes. Okay, so just look at this. I'm just gonna let you look at this for a second. Feel free to pause if you want. Take a look at this. How do you think you would solve this puzzle? Would you say this? That would make sense, right? No, that's not it. Maybe this? Nope, that's not it either. What you're actually supposed to do is line up these things on the bottom with these specific spots on the top screen, even though the top screen looks exactly the same as the loading screens and the background stuff that has nothing to do with the rest of the game. So looking up here for information is not something they've told you to do at all. But that's it. That's what you're supposed to do. And so with this knowledge, I was able to get past the second puzzle in the game, which is the one that just completely blocked me as a kid. But that doesn't mean that the puzzles were easy. This was still by far the hardest part of the game, where I spent the majority of the time just messing with these puzzles, because even if you know where they're supposed to go, the pieces are randomized most of the time. I think the way it works is that each puzzle has a few different sets of pieces that you can get, but towards the end of the game, there were some where I swear to God it was unsolvable. I'll talk about this again towards the end of the game when I actually get to it, but I do believe there are a couple puzzles that I got that were generated that were completely unsolvable. So if I got further than this as a kid, I probably would have got even more frustrated. So I'm kind of happy in a weird way that they blocked me there so I could just play the tutorial over and over, because I think any rage I felt as a kid with this would have been so much worse if I got deeper in the game. And before I move on, I just want to show the raw clip of me figuring this out in real time and resolving these years of childhood, not even trauma, but that's dramatic, pent up rage finally being released. Here you go. I don't know, things are happening. Oh wait, that lit up. Why did that light up? What did I do correct there? That being lit up is further than I've made it for any of these, so this hamster game should not be this hard. Oh, is there a specific spot each? I'm gonna start screaming. Wait, oh my God. I think there's a specific... This is telling me where those are supposed to go in the grid. Oh! Oh my God. And it was as simple as looking at the top screen. That's what the fuck? What the fuck? You're telling me. Wait, I need to go back to... You're telling me for... I don't even know. I had this game for multiple years. Good many months. I would play this game and get to that puzzle and just never saw the top screen. Oh my god. Okay, yeah, and that's not honestly that complicated when I can just show it to you like that. Like, you're probably sitting there thinking, wow, you're kind of dumb. How did you not figure that out? First of all, you're making fun of a 10-year-old but couldn't figure that out. Stop bullying a kid. Second of all, they don't tell you how this works. I mean, there's one box of text that explains how this works at the start of the very first puzzle, but it's mixed in with a bunch of other boxes of text, so by the time you get to that one, you're just gonna skip it and probably not read it. But anyway, I did it. I figured it out, I finished it, and now I can finally play the rest of this game. So the game story actually picks up within the last 20 minutes of the film story. Like, I went back and checked, and they actually skipped the entire first hour of the film. There's this whole side plot about the FBI wanting to shut down the G-Force for not performing well enough and being a weird experimental rodent program. There's this part where they have to go to a pet store, like they get kicked out of the Special Agent Force and have to live at a pet store for a little bit and meet this fat guinea pig voiced by Jon Favreau of Chef fame.
My name is Chef.
But the game gets right into the good stuff with a short cutscene explaining that Saber, the CEO of SaberSense, is about to launch ClusterStorm, which is this initiative to unify all of their smart devices and, unbeknownst to Saber, turn all of the devices evil. I have had to record this line so many times because I feel like that line of, this is gonna deep cut, when Mark Hamill is talking about Star Wars and there's a line where it's just like, oh my god, hold on, I have to find it. The line is, but we can't turn back. Fear is their greatest defense. I doubt if the actual security here is any greater than it was on Akalai or Solus, whereas likely and what there is most likely directed towards a large-scale assault. That's how I feel talking about ClusterStorm. This is a children's game. We're talking about hamsters, brother. After this, we get a really well-animated cutscene of the G-Force speeding through a tunnel in their hamster balls before we get to take control of Darwin just outside of the mansion. This game goes crazy. I'm so excited to be playing this, actually. You crawl through some vents, you get inside, and you get to play with the movement abilities just a little bit. Oh! Double jump, jetpack. But this level is burned into my brain because, as I mentioned, I played it many, many times. So these environments of this, like, the red table in this kitchen or this black couch up against this poster, just all contrasting against this really pretty wood texture, just brings me back to being a kid and gives me those warm, fuzzy memories. I love it so much. This level also introduces Mooch and lets you use his lasers to open just a basic door panel. Sorry, I said Blaster was my favorite character. Mooch was actually my favorite character. So what? In my brain of things that I remember or like think were important, I guess the name of the fly in G-Force is something that I just had locked in. And the level ends with a short explanation of how these little hacking puzzles work, which I, again, should not have skipped through. But this level is quick and simple and features no combat or enemies except for these 3 basic enemies at the very, very end. Whoa, whoa, whoa! But it's a good introduction to a lot of the base mechanics that we're going to be using for the rest of the game, like the movement, running across the tops of these cabinets in the office, or figuring out how to navigate Mooch through the vents. These are things that are going to come back, and they're just trying to get you comfortable with them now. If you thought that level was short, get ready for this one. Okay, this level opens with a cutscene that I remember loving so much as a kid, which actually checks out because I grew up to love horror movies, and this scene seems like it's straight out of Baby's First Saw. I loved that scene as a kid. I don't know why. I thought that was so sick. But this Saw Trap fan actually acts as a new mechanic in this level, allowing Darwin to get sucked into the air. I don't like using that word in relation to a guinea pig, but I don't know how else to say this. And jumping between these airstreams while trying not to get sucked to the while trying not to rise to the very top of these airstreams because you take damage if you hit the top of them. Oh no. These gusts of wind are actually pretty interesting and pretty fun and add some different movement into the game than just the base jetpack you have. And something I enjoy about this level a lot is how much they let you go up into the rafters, but I also found that to be a bit problematic at certain points. Whoa, son of a... Okay, why would you... In the second half of this level, it takes place in a kitchen, which I absolutely adore. You get to fight these waffle makers while actively creating a health hazard that Gordon Ramsay would have a field day with.
You paid for the exterminator? Sure. Get your money back.
And the level ends with some uncomfortably close camera shots in these heater vents. Like, fucking back up, dude. Alright, and then the next level is a unfortunate massive visual downgrade from the first two, with the colorful wooden hallways being replaced by sad, drab, gray Death Star textures. But this level is still very important because this is the level that features the infamous roadblock puzzle, which at this point I have said more than enough about, so I'm gonna move on, but that would have probably made me rage quit as a kid. Oh, it absolutely, yes. I many times, probably the first time, cried about it, and then eventually just accepted that was a part of life, that sometimes you don't finish the G-Force game and life isn't fair. That was the first time I learned that, apparently, was when I played G-Force. Like, I was a happy kid who was like, the world is perfect and everything's good, and then I played G-Force and couldn't get past that hacking puzzle and was like, that grew me up real quick. This level also introduces some paper shredder enemies. Wait, why would I want to? Oh, whoa, hey, ho! And reuses the wind airstream mechanic from the last level, before dumping you into a section that took me way too long to figure out on stream because the door that you're supposed to go to looks almost identical to the wall. Like, just validate me here. It's always simple. Hey, does that look like a door to you? Maybe it does. Maybe I'm being silly. Does that look like a thing you can go through? Anyway, the next level opens up with an extended mooch section that I really enjoyed before transitioning to a section with Darwin in this first room. I thought this first room was pretty cool because there's this big wall of like a TSA security conveyor belt thing with lasers that you have to dodge through, and that's pretty cool. But once you get through security, you're greeted with the loudest, most annoying sound on the fucking planet, which at a certain point comes out of multiple speakers and then overlaps, so it's fucking... Thankfully, once you shut it off, you actually get a cool new game mechanic featuring this vacuum robot. Excuse me. Oh, ho, hey, ho. Darwin's getting sucked. It chases you down like it's from Resident Evil. Wait, this is a horror game? Oh my god. But eventually you get to hack this same robot and use it as a cannon to launch Darwin face first into the ceiling. But before you hack it, you have to go through some pretty fun parkour and a little laser section that I had to just go completely silent on stream to get through. Sorry, I'm locked. It's so funny. I was about to say, sorry, I'm not talking because I'm locking into the timing here, and as soon as I started talking, I messed it up. But eventually, you hack the vacuum and take control. What? It's just funny watching him sitting there. Well, where am I supposed? No, I need to make sure I don't just launch him into the wall and break his little hamster skull. Hold on. And get to create a gerbil-shaped splatter on Saber's ceiling. All right. Whoa! Not what I... Whoa! Hey, save it! Whoa! Okay. It worked out. It worked out. The rest of this level relies on this new mechanic that they introduced where there's these laser turrets that are tracking you and you have to guide them into these solar panels that are behind other laser walls to progress and destroy. You have to use... I'm not explaining this well. You have to use the laser that's tracking you and line it up with these solar panels on the other side of a laser wall and then destroy those solar panels with the laser. It makes sense if you just see it in front of you. I don't know why. You see the visual. I don't know why I'm wasting my time explaining this. My bad. Conceptually, this part isn't that bad, but I found it to be so difficult because the hitbox on these red laser walls is so fucking big, but in order to line up the laser to get it to hit the solar panel behind it, you have to get pretty close to these walls. So 3 times in a row, I died touching these walls while trying to line up the laser on straight. And by the next stream, I had already played 3 hours straight of this silly hamster game on stream, so I was starting to get kind of jaded. So it took me way too long to follow this game's frustratingly vague instructions of finding the security blueprints when I was expecting an interaction point, but really what you're supposed to do is just stand still on this waypoint and then let the laser reflect off this glass in front of you, which I only figured out because I stood in place while looking up a decade-old guide, and that was when the laser actually hit where it was supposed to go. Okay, this part, hover over it, sure. Oh my god. But the rest of this level is pretty easy. You get a little paper shredder mini boss, do some Dark Souls rolls, which leads you into another mooch section before you get trash compacted between these 2 laser walls, which I thought was a really fun touch. You escape and the level ends, but it's worth noting too that I did fuck up this compactor section once at the very end, and they do have a death cutscene ready for that exact moment, which made me wonder how many other unique hamster deaths I missed throughout the game. Anyway, okay, so from here out, all of the clips are going to be just from me playing by myself off of stream, and as such, there's going to be way less cutaways to me talking because I was not just yapping the entire time I was playing by myself. But on top of that, the middle section of this game gets so repetitive with the gameplay. Like, don't get me wrong, there's for sure some highlights in here, but the game really picks up again in the last few missions, so I really just want to skip ahead to that. The start of the next level reuses this vacuum mechanic from the previous level, nothing new here. You fly through a mooch vent, you break some of these dish enemies, go back to mooch, open a door, fight some big guys. You see what I'm talking about with the repetition. The best part of this level is the introduction of these iron enemies who shoot fire at you, which I thought was pretty cool, but this is where the game starts actually challenging you in combat, which is a trend that will continue as the rest of the game goes on. Like, the rest of the time, the time to pain ratio is a straight line going upwards. I was not expecting the combat in GeForce DS to actually be somewhat challenging and rewarding, but it does get that way in some of the later levels, so you'll see. This next level has very little of note. I like this section about halfway through the level where there's a laser wall that closes in on you and you have to open this door before it hits you, but even that is kind of just a rehash of the compactor section. Excuse me, I bumped my water cup. But even that is kind of just a rehash of the compactor that we already saw earlier, so nothing really new in this middle section. And the level ends with a mildly challenging but still kind of interesting fight against these 4 flying enemies. There are 2 things that were becoming increasingly clear to me at this point in playing the game. Number 1, this game is super fucking long, and making a video on this might be more of a pain in the ass than I had initially anticipated. And number 2, this game has absolutely no business being as long as it is, because there's so much filler. I think the thing keeping this game good and stopping it from being great is just the fact that it's, okay, and I don't want to say this, I'm going to say this almost unironically, but it insists upon itself.
What does that even mean?
Like, this game could be improved so drastically if they just scrapped one of the 5 acts, and yes, there are 5 acts in this game that covers only 20 minutes of film time, but if they had just trimmed the fat off of this game instead of running you in circles, when in certain areas it feels like the devs themselves knew that they didn't have much content to offer and kind of just gave up, the game overall would be drastically improved. Also, I haven't been giving any updates on the story because, if we're being honest, there isn't much of a story other than the controls for this evil plan are at the center of this facility, so you have to get inside. But at this part, the chef guinea pig shows up and immediately gets captured, and I don't know why he's here. He's not a secret agent. He doesn't have any abilities. All he does is get in trouble, and the other people need to rescue him. Like, the next level is actually new and interesting. Oh my god. It introduces this oil slick mechanic that makes Darwin look like he's hitting the yoinky sploinky, and despite still being mostly gray like the previous 2 levels, this level takes place at a different location than the previous levels, so it looks a little different, and in my opinion feels a little bit more dynamic and interesting in the way it's laid out compared to the fucking hallways that I got so sick of. We get some more laser reflections, we get some more oil, and before you know it, you have to ride this lift up for the next and main part of this level. This part features one of my favorite sections in the entire game, where you get to ride an assembly line, and I'm realizing how Droid Factory adjacent this is, and I guess I'm that predictable. I guess I know what I like, okay? Anyway, yes, there is a Droid Factory adjacent part in this level, and yes, it is amazing, and no, I'm not biased because I love Droid Factory. Shut up! You get to jump between these boxes hanging from the assembly line and do some really fun parkour, after which you drop down into this room filled with nasty sticky goo that makes Darwin look mysterious as fuck walking through it. So this, as I mentioned, is where I feel the game really ramps up the combat difficulty, because there's a section right at the end where you have to fight a paper shredder alongside a swarm of smaller enemies right before you fight 3 of these newly introduced toxic goo enemies whose bile slows you down like the sticky stuff that I mentioned earlier, but now it also damages you. Isn't that fun? This level and the next couple are actually decent, but the entire 4th act that's coming up is a snooze fest that I see like up ahead in the outline that I've written, and really more what I was talking about earlier. I'm only saying this because I don't want someone to comment like, oh, you said this part was boring, but then you said that the levels were good. Wow, like the bad ones are coming back, boo. Sit down. The next level continues with the assembly line theme of the last level, which I absolutely adore. Oh no. You get to run through these tunnels that feel like the airport scene in Toy Story 2. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But the coolest part of this level is the introduction of this red whip power-up, which I believe just increases your damage slightly, but with the way more important thing that it does is makes your whip red, which looks so goddamn cool. I always went with red lightsabers as a kid, and if you couldn't tell from the colors on my channel, I'm a big fan of pinks and reds, so there's something about this vibrant red whip that I love so much. Like, they also went with the most vibrant red that you can. Like, this is, hold on, I'm gonna open Photoshop. We're doing this for real, we're committing. I just want to see what the actual hexadecimal code for this red that I'm talking about is. Like, the most red. FF0000, which I didn't know off the top of my head. I just had to look it in Photoshop and figure that out. So I love that so much. Cool. Chef gets himself in trouble again, and why he's here, I have no idea. I had so much... Can I be real for a second? I had so much genuine hatred for this character in G-Force as a child, man. I think I'm just kind of letting it out a little bit in this video, like 10 years later. But probably more than 10 years, actually like 15 years later. But god damn it, Hurley, you're getting on my nerves! The hardest part of this level comes at the very end with you running through what looks like a teenage boy's room. And I felt that line was kind of gross, but I felt okay including it, only so long as I did a little meta thing after saying it where I was like, wow, that joke was kind of gross, to separate me from the bit by a little bit. So here, what I just said was that, yes? And then you fight this Goobot. Why? Okay, this is... How the fuck am I supposed to actually do this? Before heading off to chip production to end the level. This game's long as shit, man. Yeah, it definitely is, but we're getting through it. By this point in the game, the puzzles are also getting way harder, and there's no better way for me to show that than just stating the simple fact that it took me 10 minutes, like the first 10 minutes of the recording of this level is just me working on a single puzzle. So there you go. The next room you go through is filled with this toxic waste, which forces you to do this cool, like, floor is lava thing, doing some parkour across this little section of the level. I thought that was neat, but for the most part, this level is just a bunch of combat back to back with nothing else to note, really. Whoa! Sound effect. No one talks, but he just goes, whoa! The next level sees you making your way to the primary generator for Saber's production plant. Since you're in the middle of a power plant, there are a lot of tight corridors on this level, and despite mostly still being white and gray, they did add enough variety in the shades of blue between each room to keep me interested, which, as I'm reading that back, that's such a strange thing to notice in a game in a like weird designer perspective brain, but that is something I pay attention to, is the tones of color that are in certain rooms and how that makes you feel, because it has an effect. I'm not crazy, I don't think. Well, not for that reason. There's a section right at the start of this level where we have to dodge some lasers while running over the oil from before, and I really appreciate how the game, like, at least in this specific instance, is combining previously introduced elements to, like, challenge your familiarity with the gameplay concepts that you've been using throughout the game. For example, you've dodged the lasers, you fought these blunders, and you ran over the oil all separately of each other, but now let's see how you do managing all three at the same time. I just think it's a fun way to kind of structure the game's challenges so you have some direct sense of progression, I guess. And the finale of this level has you flying between platforms at the center of this reactor, pulling 4 switches, which, god damn, why did they make it 4? They could have made it 1 or 2, I didn't need before, and cleaning up these pretty tight hallways before detonating the Saber factory and shutting down production for good. Chapter 4 starts with a cutscene where I actually made a decently funny joke, but I did it under my breath so much that I sound like I'm about to end it all. I don't know why. That's what I mean when I say link up. This first area that you start in this level reminds me of Sword Base from Halo Reach, the one map that I would like do. You could jump off this little, what is that called? What is that called? The little, like, jet stream jumping, fucking bouncing, the trampoline, motherfucker, what is it called? But you would jump up that thing and, like, you could do little 360s and then headshot people and SWAT out of that, the little heater vent. I don't know words, man. I've been used to I've been reading off a script for a little bit. I'm not used to doing this improv. Anyways, go back to G-Force. So you do a little Mario color puzzle, which is actually kind of fun, and you get to infiltrate the FBI building. Infiltrate the FBI building. Infiltrate the FBI building. Infiltrate the FBI building. Now that you've infiltrated the FBI building, the textures in this area return back to more of a, like, comforting mixture of wood grain and black carpet and red wallpaper that I just love so much. In terms of gameplay, this area feels pretty basic. You jump, you hack, you fight, you G the force. Didn't love that. That wasn't written down. All right, next level. You run through the FBI headquarters. The only thing of note really in this level is that this enemy at the very end is interesting but annoying because you have to try to roll behind his shield, which is kind of a cool dynamic combat angle maybe, but it in practicality probably isn't as cool as they wanted it to be. All right, the next level I almost skipped entirely in writing this script, but I remembered the hellish monstrosity that is this room with the multiple lasers. Hate that. And moving right on to the next mission. I'm getting through these fast because this is the section I was talking about, like, nothing's going on. You're not missing much. I'm not skipping much. We're moving on. The next mission is you attempting to stop Saber from walking into a trap that's been planted by Yanshu, who is his evil partner, and that Yanshu means mole in Mandarin too. So fun. They were really on the nose with this one. This is a really short level that takes place almost entirely in one room, kind of like a gladiator pit where enemies just keep filing to you in this one room. But I thought this room was really sick too because it has its ring of fire that shoots out of the ground. And with chapter 3, we begin our ascent into the most fun but most frustrating part of this game, which for your benefit in the video might actually be good. I love this starting room running across these glass walkways that I personally would not trust walking over a pit of acid like this in real life. Like, absolutely not. And the torch that you get to hack is probably my favorite appliance in the game. It's just so much fun shooting these cans. I don't know what this object is, the torch. Like, I don't believe it's a flashlight. Like, I don't think it's the British thing like torch, but it shoots these little balls. I don't know what it is. It's cool, it flies, it shoots stuff, I'm happy. But the good stuff doesn't truly pick up until the next level. But before we get into the good stuff, this level opens with, it's kind of just funny, but this terrible directional audio. I don't even know how it's this bad. Okay, and hi, putting this in as I'm editing this, the separation is so bad you can see it in the waveforms. I have never seen audio, like the channel separation, be so distinct that you can see it in the waveforms. What were they doing? God damn it. Why is the audio so directional? I didn't need to do that. No child on their DS heard that. They just did that to fuck with me like over 10 years later. What the hell, man? This level? This level's a good one. This level's based around you attempting to scale the inside of this like cylindrical security tower, which reminds me so much of one of the shafts inside the Death Star. But this part is made even cooler because you get to hack a torch and then fight a big group of enemies with that torch before you send Darwin in. Once Darwin comes in, you get to do some fun parkour before getting into a room that I thought was so fun because there's a bunch of these dish enemies chained together. Once I break that guy, then it reveals this guy, it reveals that guy, it reveals this guy, who then reveals the actual thing I need to kill, which is this. That's so fun. I love that. But then you move on to a section that I loved a whole lot less because I had to replay. Oh fuck, it's this section. Okay, see, I was just reading through the script, I was just reading through the words, and then it came back to me. I know what I'm talking about. Okay, this section where the floor drops out. I had to replay it so many goddamn times because once you fall through this glass, you have to jetpack between these fucking microscopic platforms while trying to aim one of those lasers that I mentioned earlier. Okay. That's not good enough. Oh no. All while getting shot at by these goo enemies who can slow down your movement and knock you out of the air. I can go for him. Oh my fucking god, the depth perception on this fucking console. Now, I need to use this laser to shoot. I'm not gonna make it. Bro! I'm about to get shot. I'm about to get shot. Go down! Why are you just floating in the air like a fucking genie? Don't get mad at a kid's game. Don't get mad at the kids game. Just sit in the corner and think about the fact that you're getting mad at a kids game. Come on. And unfortunately, the next room is no better. What the fuck? Okay, if I die here, when I die here. And honestly, at this point, this was more funny to me than annoying. But these two fan enemies at the end of the level, like, were so loud. I don't know why. Why are these guys so loud? Oh my god. Loudest enemy in any game I've played. What is going on? The audio in this game is not good, man. I've been nice enough about it because it's a DS game, and frankly, my expectations for the audio that was expected to be pushed out of those little, like, McDonald's drive-through speakers on the DS are pretty low. But goddamn, some of the sounds in this are on par with homie rollers. I thought of a bit. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I don't know how I'm gonna fit into anything, but the idea... just instead someone misinterpreting the phrase different, or like misremembering the phrase different strokes for different folks and saying, you know, different people stroke it different, you know. That's not. This next level continues the increased combat difficulty from the past two missions with these green enemies who alternate between blocking and attacking, which, once you figure that out, is not that bad, but can be so annoying when they deal damage to you before they've even started their attack animation. You didn't swing. I want to be clear, they're just standing somewhere near you and the game is like, yeah, that's an attack. We don't know how to figure this out yet. So, and this level is the one that I was talking about with that unsolvable puzzle, so here's that. And as it turns out, this puzzle isn't actually as unsolvable as I thought, but okay, just look. So I took a screenshot of it, of that puzzle, and then broke it into these squares to try to test it out. And as you can see, I did figure out how to solve it. So that one wasn't unsolvable, it was just unreasonably fucking difficult. You have to put this piece right here. It can't go in either one of these two spots. It has to go here because this signal needs to go down to 1 and then split into 2 and then go over here. And you can swap one of these pieces out, but other than that, this configuration, it has to be exactly this way. And the only reason I was able to do this is because I could freely move the pieces. I cannot imagine actually maneuvering it the way it moves in the game. No goddamn way. No goddamn way. If I couldn't do, no way a kid could do that. Stop it. And remember that annoying green guy that I mentioned at the beginning? Now you gotta fight 2 of those at the same time. Have fun with that. This section where you have to reflect a laser off of this tower of quartz I thought was pretty cool. And the level ends with a lot of difficult combat against our favorite green fox, who will not leave us alone apparently. That's why this enemy is so goddamn annoying, because he didn't touch me. Don't do that. Not a big deal, don't do that. Fucking no. You didn't even swing, you didn't even start the attack animation yet, and I already take damage. He hasn't even begun to wind up the swing, and the health is already removed from my health bar. What the fuck is this game? Looks like we've split them apart enough that this is actually gonna work, because then you're gonna, and then you, oh my god. And then you open up, yep. And then you open up, whoo, oh my god. I'm a gamer, dude. And guess what the next level starts with? Another one of these goddamn green, you stupid I would have been bawling as a child if I had, like, I would have been going crazy on the basketball court. No, I would have been crying so fucking hard. In this level, you actually do kind of the same thing you did in the last one, where there's a big cylindrical area where you have to hack a torch, clear out some enemies, and then do parkour as Darwin through the same area. Like, it's so similar that I thought I was using the wrong footage when I was writing this section, but they're just similar. The only real fun that I had in this particular level was realizing how to use this charge up ability, which has been in the game the whole time. It's what these little batteries that I've been picking up periodically are for, but I don't think I ever charged it up enough to actually use this ability until the very last level in the game, so that is something. But this part of the level where you send Darwin into the center of the tower is so, oh my god. The enemies here have way too much health, and for some reason they decided to put a gutter at the bottom of this level, so it's impossible to kill these enemies without them inevitably falling down into this gutter where you just have to hit them over and over and over and over in a circle. Like, why do they have so much goddamn health? Why is there a gutter in the bottom of this fucking level? Do they hate themselves? Did they hate you? Why is there a gutter down here? But at the end of the level, you get the big reveal that Yanshu is actually Sparkles before he summons a giant robot that I somehow totally forgot was in the movie. Like, I assume they didn't just make it up for the game. It has to also be in the movie, but I do not remember that shit. However, none of the guinea pigs in the G4s are able to fly up to the robot, but you know who is? My main man, Mooch! Yo. Wait, it all comes down to Mooch. That's right, for the final mission of the game, you play as Mooch for the entire thing, which I thought was such an awesome conclusion for the 11-year-old Mooch fanboy in my heart. Through the center of the robot, you get to fly through these laser walls and these pistons in a section that was really fun, but got a little annoying at times. I'm just gonna cut those and pretend this was fun. It was fun. We all had a good time, right? All right. My biggest complaint here is the same one that I've had with Mooch the entire game, and it's simply the fact that he's on tank controls, which still suck. The way Darwin moves works really well, so why they didn't just copy that over to Mooch and then make his lasers like the direction he's facing and have them target things in front of him is a mystery to me. But it makes some of these sections a lot more frustrating than they need to be. This could have been really fun, but brother. But the one thing that ruined maybe not ruin, maybe in a more poetic way, tied everything together about this game. But the biggest thing I need to comment on in this final boss level is that there is no final boss. The final boss is 4 back-to-back insanely difficult puzzles. Oh my... I kind of have to laugh. They really sat there. They really sat down and they said, you know, like the worst part of this game, the thing that kids are gonna fucking cry about, the thing that's gonna stop kids from progressing in this game. What if we took the hardest version of that and made them do it 4 times at the end of the game so they could finish it? That's fun, right? That's a game. That's what That's oh my god. They actually hate you. They actually wanted you to. But once those puzzles are done, we get a cutscene launching a fucking satellite into the chest of the giant robot. Again, I do not remember this from the movie. I'm sure it's there. I just don't. How I could forget this is really what I'm more astonished by, but moving on. That's fucking insane. The final boss actually was just 4 back-to-back puzzles. I hate that. But with that, honestly, poetically perfect ending, we have finished the story. Excuse me. I need to fucking figure out a way to not have drinks exactly where, because I talk with my hands while I'm recording this shit. Anyway, we have finished the story of G-Force on the Nintendo DS. If you were wondering what these like green computer chip tokens I was picking up the entire game were for, I had the exact same question. And as it turns out, they're for this extras shop where you get to buy concept art for some of the characters and appliances, as well as clips from the cutscenes seen in the game. I personally, like for my own usage of this game, thought that this was useful because there were some parts where I wanted to re-record the cutscenes with audio that I had talked over during a stream, and having these extras here allowed me to do that. But like, as a kid playing this game, I'd imagine that was kind of a letdown because you're collecting this currency throughout the entire game. It's in every level. And the fact that the only function it actually serves is to let you see pictures of stuff that you have to have already seen in the game to even unlock the ability to buy, it's just kind of like, what's the point? What are we doing here? Speaking of what's the point, there is also a multiplayer mode in this game, which is a fact that I was blissfully unaware of until one day when I was just trying to get B-roll for this exact video. I played through the whole story and didn't see this button once. And I actually went through the trouble of setting up multiplayer on this emulator so I could test what the multiplayer mode was. And oh my god, I cannot even put into words how disappointing this was. I just have to show you. The goal is to solve a puzzle as fast as possible. Oh no. But this one doesn't even give you the top screen. They just make you guess it. What? Oh, this one is you simply have to connect them. Power-ups. Wow, this is... oof. They did not know what kids wanted. Good God. Okay, that's boring. That's way lamer than I thought it was gonna be. Oh, and then this is just the game. The normal puzzles. I'm not even gonna finish that. That's quite boring. That's actually quite sad. I spent time figuring out how to set up multiplayer for that. But yeah, okay, I feel like, okay, can I just say, I feel like we ended on a somewhat sour note here, but frankly, that's just the extra content and the multiplayer. Like, that is lacking in the game, and the end of the game being the puzzles is kind of little bit of sour taste at the very end. And really my point is I just don't want to end on a negative note and let the final impression of this game be that I don't like it or that it's negative, because that simply is not the case. As the title of this video says, I think this game is way better than you would expect it to be, and I don't mean that this game's a perfect 10 out of 10, but what I mean by that is, like, compared to the standard that was set by other children's movie games on the DS, this far exceeds it. And if that's the competition, this motherfucker's getting gold every single time. I had not seen the vast majority of this game up until like a month ago. But even still, I do think this game is worth playing. And I think there's something, maybe not in 2025, I cannot honestly recommend that someone would purchase this game. But if you happen to have it as a kid, maybe consider picking it back up, because honestly, it's a hell of a lot better than you might expect. So that was the initial ending to the video that I had written, but that was before there was a 160k elephant in the room for me to acknowledge. So yeah, the last video that I made, the Lego Battles video, did very, very well. Oh my god. Thank you so much everyone who watched that. I assume you're probably not at the end of this other GeForce video, but I am so grateful for all the support on that video. Oh my god. But something I do want to directly say to the people who probably would get to the end of this video is I am not going to change what I'm doing. Just because that video blew up doesn't mean that I'm going to start doing a bunch of just Lego stuff or just RTS or just battles or anything. Don't get me wrong, Lego people, I am going to keep doing the Lego 100% series because I want to do that personally. I think that's fun. And I am going to do videos on Ninjago battles and 100%ing Lego battles, but I'm going to do those on my own time in a way that I want to. Just because, and I'm saying this just because I feel like at this point with the success that I had on that other video, I'm at a bit of a crossroads where I have the option to like, on one hand, I could just kind of cave into like, whoa, this video did super well, so now I have to do a bunch of stuff like that. But I don't think that video did well because I was chasing trends. I think it did well because I was talking about stuff that I just cared about. So this GeForce video is actually me very intentionally stating like, hey, that other video did well. I'm gonna keep doing that stuff, but I'm gonna do what I want to do mostly. I think this other core community that I built up with like the Style Savvy and the DS Decoration and the Random DS series, I think there's a very... I love the group of people who I've seen comment and watch those videos, and I do not want to abandon you guys because you make me very happy and want to do this more, and so I'm not abandoning you just because this other one did well. That was my main point. Alright, I've talked more than enough. Thank you so much for watching this. Thank you for supporting the channel. I hope you have a good rest of your day or night or whenever you watch this, and I hope to see you later in another video, or I guess I hope you see me because I won't see you. Bye.